Hi everyone! I promised you a paper pumpkin video from March's Paper Pumpkin Kit, and that's what I have for you today. March's Paper Pumpkin Kit was pretty interesting. It came with enough supplies to make 4 each of 2 different designs, plus some additional supplies that you could use on your own to create your own designs. So I will show you what the kit makes, and then I'll show you something else that I've made using the stencils and the sponges. So let's take a peek. I'm Carol Tennant with Carol's Cards for Fun, and we're going to look at the March Paper Pumpkin Kit. So it comes in this pretty little box, and the supplies inside. I've already opened it up. You need to know that. I've already opened it up and played with it. You get some dimensionals, and you get several stamps, which I've already put on blocks and used. The stamp sets are some trees, some flowers, some sentiments that say, all the best for a happy, healthy, and let me see, happy, healthy, and prosperous year. Here's to you. Congratulations. Happy birthday. And then may your journey through life take you to many new and exciting places. Congratulations if I didn't say it. And then trees and flowers. So most of these, and birds. Most of these I have on blocks already because I've been using them. So I'll set those aside. It comes with Calypso Coral ink spot. It came with a sponge that I've already cut up. This used to be a perfectly round sponge, but I've cut it into 6 pieces. A lot of people cut it into 4, but I cut it into 6 because I felt like that was big enough for what I needed, and plus I wanted to use a lot of colors. It comes with these awesome stencils, which we don't use a whole lot, but we are going to use them with this kit. It comes with trees that you just pull away from the paper backing, some glue dots, a pretty scene, and these are card envelope inserts. So you just put these down into the envelope, and then I like to secure them, you know, right here, and then you can just fold them and use them. Another use, though, and one of the uses that I'm going to be doing is instead of using this as an envelope insert, I'm actually just going to use it for some designer paper to make a different alternative card. So it comes with enough envelopes for your cards, and it comes with enough card bases and some twine. It comes with enough card bases for each of these 2 card bases. One is just the pretty peacock, and the other has a scene on it. So let me put all this stuff aside and get out the card. Okay, so you start with just this, and you punch out one of these and one of these, and you pop them up on dimensionals and put here. You punch out these trees and just lay them over the scene. And then you punch out a piece of white and stamp it with the "Here's to You" in Calypso Coral. Wrap some twine around it and a circle like this, glue dot it to the back, and then pop that up on dimensionals. And remember, they give you many dimensionals. So that is how to make the card that comes with the kit. Now I've actually taken it a little further, and I've decided to go ahead and use these stencils and make another card. It's similar but different. One of the things that I saw immediately when I saw this set was, oh my goodness, it goes perfectly with this Mountain Air stamp set. that we worked with last spring. And it really does. You could use these stamps to recreate this card pretty close to exactly. And I did actually use this one for here, but instead of using the stamps, like I could have, I used the stencils. So let me grab out the stencils. Now for this particular card, I used the mountain stencil and what I call the sunburst stencil. So let me just show you how I did that. Let me see if this piece of card is trimmed down enough. Now you can see that I have mountains. Is that the right mountain? Let's see. Yes, mountains here. But I wanted to do the sunburst above it. So if you turn it this way, let me see. This is one way will give you the mountains and the other way will give you, okay, so this way will give you the mountains. But then if I turn it around this way, hang on, be patient. I know I can do this because I have. Just 1 second. I need to trim this down just a bit, so hang on. Okay, it actually needs to be, there's only 3 3/4 inches here, so it has to be 3 3/4 inches wide, and my paper was just a tiny tad wide. So I can do my sunburst in my sky and use this as the mountains, and I just have to sponge that on. Notice how I've just pushed it up through, and that's what I was having trouble with, pushing it up through because my paper was just a tad large. Now I can create as much sky or as little sky, and these two will not be alike because I'm just going for it. Okay, so I'm just going to lay it here. Now, if you're worried about it moving around, you can get some of, it's a temporary tape. This is called wall safe tape, but I can just, well, let me get a piece of white paper, scrap paper. So here's the one I have been using. So I can tape this down just to, I can either hold it with my hand or I can tape it down. But I think I'm just going to give it, this is temporary tape and it'll come up pretty easily. And probably the hardest part of this whole thing for me is to remember which one of these sponges used which color. So this is pretty easy to tell that I used the Mossy Meadow, so I'll put it with it. And then I just have to, since that really doesn't have any color coming off of it, I can use it for about anything I want. So the first thing I'm going to do is just put some seaside spray up above the mountains. And I'm going to go real lightly with it because I want to put my sun on there. So straighten up my card a little bit. And just go real lightly with it. I just want a little bit of color up here. I'm just dabbing it on. And then what I'm going to do is leave this here, but I'm going to put my mountain, my sun over it and showing just as much of it as I want to show. So that looks good to me. And because I don't trust myself to hold it still, I'm going to just tape it down again. And that's about what I want it to look like. I don't want that to cover where my sunbeams will, so move that down. I'll shut off the seaside spray and get out. This looks like it was used for yellow. I'll get out my So Saffron. And this is what I started with for my sun. So I'm going to put it on pretty heavily. So see me really dabbing down. Now the the mask will do the work in keeping the ink only where I want it to be. And that's pretty awesome. Okay, but that wasn't quite enough for me. I wanted to put a little bit of the Calypso coral in there too, just to give it a little more depth and dimension and color. So that looks like it might have been, no, it could be this one. Again, the hardest part for me was just figuring out which sponge I used. So I'm just going to dab some of this on. Looks like I got it a little heavier than I really wanted, but that's okay. Just going to dab a little bit. And hopefully I'll like it. I thought I would when I started it. Okay, so now I have my sun. So I'm just going to take this off. Yeah, that looks okay to me. So I'm going to take this one off, and I'm done with this one for now. But if you want to clean it, you just take your Simply chamois, set this aside because I don't want to get it messy, and just wipe it off. Or you could run it underwater. Take this and set it aside. And now I want to do my mountains. So let's see, maybe I can just do them like this. Oopsie. Pull this away. Oops, this way. I need to wipe this one off too. And see, I'm going to the other end. See, last time I did, oops. Oh, how did I do that? I know I did that. It's really hard to figure. Oh, this one. This is what I did. Last time I did this way. This time I'm doing this way. Except I gotta get it the right way. There we go. Takes a little bit of figuring. So that pretty well matches where I was before. Just get it down in here and get it matched up. Because I want to protect my sun, but I want to get my mountain there. Okay, so my next color was some Seaside Spray. And there's not really any guide here telling me how far I'm going to go with this. So I'm just going to, that was used for blue. This could be for green. Okay, so I'm just going to do some. Because I'm going to come in next with a darker color. The only thing I want to make sure is I don't go above and get this into my sun. Now this may look like a lot of work, but it's actually quite a lot of fun. Just dab until you're happy. I know I'm going to put another layer of mountains down here. And I know that they're going to be a darker color. Oops, I'm slipping. See how I've slipped a little? There we go, put it back. That's why I don't trust myself to hold it, which is why I want to tape it down. Okay. So there are some soft seafoam mountains. Now what's really cool about this is that we can add some shadow to our mountains with these guys. Just slide it up. I'm going to take this piece of tape off of here. And I'm going to try to line it up so that my definition in my mountains are pretty close. to the top. And then I'm just going to get a little bit of my mossy meadow. And I know that I used this sponge with the mossy meadow. And just dab it into these little bits here. And these line up pretty well. I suppose this is what they were meant to do. Now you don't want to get this too dark because you kind of want a little bit of a fuzzy bit, but I think I want it a little darker than that. Always take a peek. We can always come back in and add some more green too if we want to, but I think that'll do. So far that's what I have, but I want to add these mountains too. So I'm just going to slide it down a little bit. And I'm going to get my crumb cake. I'm just going to add another layer of mountains. This is West Virginia, and we have lots of mountains, not just one set. Okay, I'm going to use this sponge. And I'm going to add these mountains, so I don't want to come down below that. And I'm really focusing mostly up toward the top. And you'll see it does overlap a little bit with the green, but I think that'll be okay. Actually, what I should have done, I'll show you what I should have done once I get this top good. I'm just getting the top of the mountain real defined. And you don't even need stamps. You can make a whole card out of this, except my tape is in the way, so. There we go. Okay, so maybe what I should have done, because I don't want that strong line there, is to come through like this. And that's what I'll do now, to just add a little bit of fuzziness to this stronger line. I can match it up. I can match it up pretty good enough because I'm not actually going to do the top again. I'm just going to dot down here because I don't want that strong line. Just want to fuzzy that up a bit. It won't matter too terribly much because the next thing I want to do, so there's my scene so far, but the next thing I want to do is bring in these trees from the Mountain Air set. So it's this stamp here. I'm going to ink them up with the Mossy Meadow. So I've been using a lot of ink colors here, so I'll move some of these aside so we have a little room to work. To make sure this is good and inked. And then I'll bring it over top. I'm just kind of overlapping on my mountains. And remember, this is a photopolymer stamp. So you can use a sponge pad. I found that this one stamps pretty good. Just going to leave it sit here. I'm not really applying a lot of pressure. I just want to leave it sit here. I'm going to touch it everywhere and let the ink transfer and pull it straight up. And that looks beautiful. I like that. But the last thing I want to do is bring back in my Seaside spray. Not my Seaside spray. My soft sea foam. You can see how I get confused. Oh dear, that had some white on it. That's okay. We'll get another one. And just dab into this bottom area where it's kind of white. Just dab some color in there. And then I'm going to trim it. Since I really didn't know what size I was going to end up with, once I got all of my images here, I just trim it afterwards. So let me just make sure I get plenty on there. Okay, and then I'm going to stick it in my paper trimmer and trim it. And this is what I end up with. Now, one thing I need to do before I start touching things is wipe all this ink off my hands, or I'll make a mess, and I don't want to make a mess. And get these ink pads out of the way and the sponges out of the way. Now, to finish off this card, I have the birch embossing folder that I just rubbed some white over the trees, mounted it on a Calypso coral, then laid my pretty scene over top of it, stamped the stamp out of the set that says, "May your journey through life take you to many new and exciting places," tied a little ribbon with twine, and that's my card front. And then inside I just sponged another sun and another mountain in the same manner that I did on the front, and that is my alternative card front. And I really enjoy doing this. I know it seems a little labor intensive, but I really liked making it. It was a lot of fun. And the only actual stamp is the trees and the sentiment. Everything else is sponging. So that was a lot of fun. So the second set for today's, the second card for today's paper pumpkin is this one. And it comes in pieces. We have the card base that comes in the kit. And the scene comes in the kit. Easy, easy. Punch out 3 of the little white pieces and stamp happy birthday. Wrap some twine around it and put these up on dimensionals. And that is the second of the paper pumpkin cards. What I ended up doing then was making this with the sponges. So I just took one of these envelope inserts and cut out a little hill, like is in the designer paper. And then I took a piece of So Saffron and cut out another little hill coming from the other side. Stamped a happy birthday and punched it out with the tag punch. Wrapped some twine around that and stamped this. So let's go for this one. Let me bring in my parts. And I've decided to make a little tiny change to it this time, but I'll show you that as we go. So this is the card we're going to end up making. I don't know that I need that anymore. And for this card, we're going to use the other stencil, the cloud stencil. So here's the cloud stencil that we're going to use. And I'm just going to start with the sky. And I'm going to do it pretty much like I did before. I want to put my piece of card in behind here. I just pretty much need to pick how far down I want to come. Where's my scene going to be? And I'm just using the other one as a guide because I've already made that decision. Okay. And we're going to use the white ink. The white ink is really good ink, but it is the messiest ink. Every time I use it, I just add a little ink to the pad. I don't even try to keep a lot of ink on there because it might just ooze off. It is so sticky. So it takes it a while to dry. Now I need to find a good clean sponge. And I think most of them I've used for multiple things. So I'm just looking for one that I have not got a bunch of ink on. This one looks like it might work. And I'm just going to put these clouds here. So I'm going to line this up in here. Remember, it has to be no more than 3 3/4 wide to work because that's how big this is wide. Okay, I'm just going to, and I'm going to try to dab this on here pretty heavily. So you might see a bit of a mess, what looks like a mess, but I think it'll be okay. And remember, I just inked this, so I have some really fresh ink there. And I'm kind of creating a straight line toward the bottom here, but that's okay. That's what I really wanted in this case. So that looks like, because it's going to dry a little bit lighter. So that looks like enough. And the one thing you really do have to do with this one is wipe it off. Because if you don't, this ink will get messy everywhere. So I'm going to wipe it off. And then I'm just going to turn it around because I want some variation in my clouds. And I'm going to go a little higher up so I don't have to worry about getting into this that I've gotten done already. And this is probably not going to look exactly like the other one. So I'll just warn you right now. Here's my sponge. I'm just working in that spot that I actually added ink to. Give myself a little room. And I'm just going to kind of lightly come around here. It's really up to you how you want to do this. It's just your own creativity. But this is, I just wanted a little bit of difference. I didn't want just rows and rows of the same kind of clouds. So I did that. And again, I am going to wipe this off because I know this ink is so sticky and so messy. I came in with the next group, the same group that I started with. I'm going to do another row of them. Again, just working in this spot that I inked. And I want these to be pretty well defined. And I do have a lot of ink on that pad. So they might be more defined than my last ones. But that's okay. And then rather than moving it again, I just decided to give these two little clouds a little bit of ink. And then I didn't really like the way the middle one was, so I'm just going to wipe it off. Again, very, very important to keep wiping this off. And then I just turned it over. And gave it a little bit of ink too. Okay, so that's what our clouds look like. Okay, so I got my rows of clouds a little different than I did on my first one. Maybe not quite as far apart, but I think that'll be fine. I could, because of what I did, I might put another one there, but I actually don't think I'll bother. I think I'll leave it alone. Now you see, even though I've wiped it off several times, I did get some ink down here, but that's okay. It is going to be covered. So now that is wet, and it's going to be wet for a while. So I'm going to try very hard to just work around that. So I'm going to set aside this white ink before I make a big mess with it. Just get it out of the picture. And I'm going to come in and do some of my water. And I am using the Waterfront stamp set. And I will give you a heads up right now that this stamp set is retiring. So I'll give you another heads up about what's retiring. But this stamp set, Waterfront, is retiring. So I will just grab a couple of stamps out of it and do some water. Okay, the stamps I want are this ziggy-zaggy one and these dots. And I'm just going to do them in the Seaside Spray as soon as I find it. There it is. I'm just going to randomly stamp some through here because I know I'm going to be putting my mountains on below. Where do I want a piece? Let's see how that works with my mountains. I just took a piece of that paper, that envelope liner, and just cut it right out of there. And then I took a saffron, just took my scissors and cut it out. So it looks like I have that down far enough. And now I'm going to just use some dots and make it just a little more fun. I just want to make sure I get enough on here. And then the last thing I want to do, which is going to be the most probably interesting with these clouds being a tiny bit wet. I'm just going to use the cloud, and I'm going to use the very tip of one of these sponges. I'm just going to use this as a line here. And just add a little bit of darkness along the bottom of the clouds. This would be a little easier if I knew this was dry, but I don't know it's dry. I just wanted that line there. Probably could do it without the... Okay, just wanted that line there. All right, get rid of that. And find my hills again. Just one more thing. I need to get my trees out of my stamp set and stamp them just above my mountain. So I know that my mountain is going to be there. So I'm just going to ink this up. I'm going to use the Pretty Peacock. Ink that up pretty good. And then as soon as I get my placement, oops, just using this as a guide as to where I want my trees. It's okay if it's a little different. Stamp my trees down, and they'll go up into my clouds, but that's okay. And now I'm ready to add my 2 pieces of pretty paper. And I may have gotten my trees a little lower than I wanted them, but that's okay. Okay, let's get the ink out. And just start adding my paper. Again, this was just fussy cut into a little curve. It's not even quite wide enough, but it was a scrap I grabbed out of my stash. And it doesn't matter since this is going to be covered. There we go. The only other thing we need to do is stamp our sentiment, which I went ahead and used the happy birthday, and I used it in the pretty peacock. Punched it out with my punch. And I decided for this one, I would mount it onto here. So I'm going to do that before I glue my sentiment down. Get it straight. Doesn't look straight. I think I don't have my bottom cut straight. Hold on. You see this? I didn't get quite even on my paper, so I'm just going to trim that off. Let's see if there's anything else got. And this isn't quite even, so I'm just going to trim that off. I didn't line it up as well as I should have. So let's get that out of the way. Let's see if it'll line up better. Oh yeah, it's going to line up much better, so let's glue it down now. It's always a way to fix something. And down it goes. And then onto my card base. So this is just a piece of pretty peacock. Cut it 5.5 by 8.5, and I'm just going to add this to it. Scored at 4 1/4 and fold it in half. So there we go. And I need to get a little piece of twine here. And I just took it and wrapped it around my fingers 3 times. Cut it. And just put a couple of glue dots on the back of my happy birthday. And anything that's extra, I will just cut off these couple of little ends. Oops, lost it. Didn't get it stuck good. And then use some mini dimensionals. That's not many. Well, here's some minis that are almost all gone, but I will just cut them up. I just have the edges left, so that's okay. I can use the edges. Some came with the kit, but since I had some open already, just thought I'd do that. Ooh, and I see one more thing I need to do. Let's just put my happy birthday in here. And I did go ahead and put the birds in the sky with the Calypso coral. So I've already got it glued onto my card, but that's okay. I can still do it. I can still stamp birds. All right, here we go. Oh, look what I did. I made a little mess, but that's okay. I won't let it worry me. Like that. And then the inside, I just put some more dots and some trees. So I'm going to wipe off these trees. And this. And I will add some crumb cake dots. And I just put them until I was happy. And some pretty peacock trees. And stamp them in. Just glue this onto my Calypso coral mat. And to the inside of the card. Ta-da! And because I am who I am, and I don't like my happy birthday all messed up, I can fix it. So I just grab my pretty peacock ink again. I stamp again. Oops. Okay. I stamp again. I punch again. And I glue. Easy peasy. Okay. You can make mistakes, but you can almost always fix them. So, what we have today for our cards are these two made with the stencils. And these two made with the kit. So I'm pretty happy with that. I could have made this closer to this with different colors, but I just picked up colors and made what I wanted to make. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. I really do like the scenery type cards. So I hope you like them too. So the March Paper Pumpkin Kit offered a lot of possibilities and a lot of options. You can use and mix and match all of the elements in any way you want. You can make 8 cards from the supplies just exactly as they've shown or give an example. But to me, that is just a starting point, a jumping off point to inspire further creativity. The stencils are really fun to work with. The scenes you can build and the way they work together. So that gives you a whole nother option for, future cards and different cards, and even enhancements to other cards that you make. So I hope you've enjoyed these, and take care, y'all. Have fun. Bye.